Timothée Chalamet is one of the busiest men alive. He's starring in the new film Marty Supreme due out this Christmas. In case you missed his trolley marketing meeting video he posted on the internet or weren't lucky enough to get one of the jackets. He wrapped filming the new Dune movie. He's sitting courtside at Knicks games with his Kardashian girlfriend, signing artists to Coulda Been Records with Drewski, and if you believe some people on the internet, he's even got a secret career himself as a rapper. Not just any rapper, but SD Kid, who, despite not showing his face, has over 8 million monthly listeners on Spotify and just sold out a US tour in seconds. And that's especially impressive because he's British. Although it's easy to see the uncanny resemblance to Timothée Chalamet in the sliver of SD Kid's face that is widely public, there are plenty of plot holes in that theory, which began as a stray TikTok video and then evolved into a full-on news story, with outlets like TMZ and Rolling Stone covering it. There are a bunch of guest verses on SD Kid's album Rebel from other British rappers like Fimi Guerrero and Rico Ace, so they would have to be in on it too, and the more people you tell about something like that, the more likely it's going to fall apart. That would be quite an operation keeping it under wraps. On top of that, there are purportedly some real face pics of SD Kid floating around. I'm not going to post them in this video, but if you wanted to find them, they're not that hard to find. It's all in good fun though, and if Timothée Chalamet was able to do the Scouser accent that accurately, he might really be the GOAT. SD Kid is just the latest in a long line of artists to become sensations while trying to protect their identity. Yet, anonymity is a different beast in 2025 than it was in the past. How do you manage to become a popular anonymous artist at a time when, in general, we all know way too much about each other? What's the benefit of hiding your identity in public at a time when artists are desperately trying to be related to? Is being anonymous a healthy way for an artist to protect their sanity from the overreaching fingers of fame? Or is it a potentially dangerous phenomenon in 2025? Because as crazy as it sounds, there are anonymous artists right now that I consider to be very dangerous to the music industry. And I'll explain what I mean by that. But first, if you like videos on music like this one, I'd really appreciate a like and subscribe. I post a video every week. If you want to see them early, go to my Instagram, HADJI Gaviota, throw me a follow and join my broadcast channel. I post all my videos in there one day early for free. Also, thanks for the love on my latest song, Hot Crash. If you like the video playing or you like the instrumental in the background, that should give you an idea of what it looks and sounds like. I'll put the link for you to check that out in the description. My band Elmjack is going on tour this February and this March. I'll put those dates on the screen and also put the link to those tickets in the description. Can't wait to see a bunch of you guys there. Let's get back to the video. I talked about some anonymous artists in my video about artists being mysterious. But most mysterious artists are not full-on anonymous. We have videos of Mr. Mystery himself, Frank Ocean, singing at his high school graduation, and videos of new heartthrob McGee playing Freebird on his guitar when he was like 12 years old. Even the other hottest and coolest new rapper from England, Fake Mink, has a bigger digital footprint than you might imagine. Being flat out anonymous or even semi-anonymous as a musician is a completely different thing, and it's much harder to pull off. But with that being said, it isn't impossible, and there were even people doing it before the advent of social media. One of the earliest examples of a truly anonymous music act is The Residents, a band formed in Louisiana but really did most of their work out of San Francisco that first started getting popular in the 1970s. They would wear these eye helmet things on stage while they performed, did a lot of soundtrack work, and had a very dedicated fan base built over the years. In 2017, one of the original members of the band, Hardy Fox, revealed himself a year before he passed away, kind of like a grandfather admitting that he had a whole second family while he was on his deathbed. But the Residents make weird and avant-garde music that's not really trying to hit the top 40 charts. You would imagine it would be harder to be a truly anonymous artist pulling that off. But there actually is a pretty long history of popular media produced by people who, at least while they were alive, were in secret. One of the most anticipated movies of 2026 is Wuthering Heights, an adaptation of a book written by Emily Bronte back in 1847. Except at the time of its release, it was written under the name Ellis Bell so that people thought it was written by a man. It wasn't until Emily passed away that it became common knowledge that she was the real author. Plenty of books were written under pseudonyms at this time, but it wasn't always for anonymity's sake, although sometimes it was. A lot of times it was more like a stylistic choice, almost like musicians picking a stage name. Mark Twain, for example, was really named Samuel Clemens, but he went by Mark Twain because that was something that the workers on the steamboats he used to work on would shout. Anonymity for someone like Emily Bronte was driven by societal expectations because of her gender. Today, there are many other reasons why an artist might want to be anonymous, or at least make their true identity a bit harder to access. Some want to be able to play a character with their artistry and build a world, and they don't want to be held back by their true real-life persona. Others want to make art as a living while protecting themselves from the overreaching, parasocial, TMZ-ified society that we live in, where there are Reddit forums dedicated to figuring out whether Liverpool rapper Timothée Chalamet is spending Thanksgiving with his girlfriend Kylie Jenner or not. And then there are some artists who just see it as an opportunity to generate some buzz or some mystique. Probably the most famous example of an anonymous act in music is Daft Punk. The French duo were originally in an indie band called Darlin that went nowhere, and funnily enough, one of the other members from Darlin went on to found the band Phoenix. I had no idea about that. I don't know if that's like a super common knowledge thing. Let me know in the comments because that kind of blew my mind, I'm not gonna lie. They left the world of indie rock and dove deeper into their love of electronic music and sampling, getting the name Daft Punk from an insult that a reviewer wrote about their old music. They put out their first album, Homework, in 1997, and they wanted to be at least a little anonymous with their appearance, but didn't have the budget for that sick robot costume yet. And that's how we ended up with pictures like this. This is the type of shit that a dude puts on for a Halloween party when he doesn't have a costume. With Homework becoming a success, breeding the super popular single Around the World, the band had 4 years to hone their image. And sure enough, they popped back out with the much cooler robot costumes. They even went and created some lore for the appearance change, with member Thomas Bangalter claiming, "We were doing a track and our sampler crashed and exploded and there were sparks. We were hurt a little bit, so we had to make a little surgery and then we became robots." It took everything in my power to not read "make a little surgery" in like an embarrassing French accent, so I'm sorry to the people of France just for even having that thought in my head. I'm sorry, Victor Wembanyama. These helmets would become synonymous with Daft Punk as a whole, and would go on to get some serious style upgrades down the line from flashy designer HADJI Slimane. But what was the motivation for Daft Punk staying anonymous over the years? According to Thomas Bangalter, it was about self-preservation. In a 2006 interview, he said, "If you can stay protected and get noticed, then it's all good." The duo didn't want to fall victim to the disease of celebrity, and wanted to do everything in their power to keep the attention on the music. There are plenty of artists who, in this time period, existed in some sort of pseudo-anonymity, by performing in costume or with some kind of mask. One of the most popular examples of that, of course, is MF Doom. And don't worry, Reddit hip-hop heads, I said that in all caps if you couldn't tell. It's typed in the script in all caps, I promise. I'll post receipts. Daniel DeMille's first rap name was Zev Love X, and in the early 1990s, he was in a rap trio called KMD, where he was not wearing a mask. One of the other members was DJ Subrock, who was his real-life brother, and he was tragically killed in a car accident in 1993, and then quickly after, the label dropped them. Daniel disappeared for a few years before coming back in 1997 and doing some open mics as MF Doom. He would wear a stocking over his face, but eventually he adapted the much cooler mask, which was based off the Marvel villain Dr. Doom. As MF Doom, on top of his other various alter egos and side projects, DeMille went on to become one of the most beloved underground rappers of the 21st century. While Doom did have a similar aspect of self-preservation in his approach to identity and anonymity as Daft Punk, there was another layer to it. The desire to, in hip-hop, kind of zag where everyone else was zigging and stand out for the music itself. And we can hear it in his own words.
The mask really represents the whole, like, to rebel against the trying to sell the product as a human being, you know what I mean? It's more of a sound.
Daft Punk as a duo retired a few years ago, and since then, the members have left the helmets in the closet and made some public appearances, especially Thomas Bangalter. The anonymity became such a big part of Daft Punk's identity that it actually rubbed some of the fans the wrong way to really see their faces. At the end of the day, neither Daft Punk nor MF Doom were, in true definition, anonymous acts. People in the know at least knew the artists' names. They might have been able to get by walking past some of their more casual fans on the street, but I couldn't say that they were truly anonymous. With that being said, we can take a look at this picture of the artist-listener relationship. In a traditional sense, the artist presents themselves and the fan receives it. In MF Doom and Daft Punk's cases, they replaced their own self with a created self that came with lore and richness and honestly might have more depth than just being themselves. And from a fan perspective, I don't think it's a coincidence that both of these groups have really die-hard fans, because when you can build a world, whether it's with yourself or with this created self, you really get fans to love you. Both of them were also acts that were pre-internet, or at least rose together with the internet. After the social media boom, anonymity became more than just a statement about protecting yourself from celebrity or allowing the music to speak for itself. It was also now the driver of hype. There are artists like Marshmello and deadmau5 from the Daft Punk tree who do similar helmet-based anonymous electronic music projects. And they've gone on to become immensely popular. Before you kill me in the comments, I'm not saying they're similar musically, I'm saying they're similar in terms of their headwear choice. In the early 2010s, a rapper named Your Old Droog started gaining a lot of attention on the internet because people thought he was secretly Nas, thanks to the similarities in flow and rapping approach. Well, eventually people figured out that that wasn't the case. It put a lot of steam into Droog's career, and it was aided by the fact that you couldn't find a picture of him to prove that he wasn't Nas.
They sped my tape up and uploaded it with a picture of Nas's face. But I wasn't in control of that. I was just kicking back like, word.
Outside of music, some huge internet creators have propelled themselves into stardom by choosing to be anonymous. YouTubers like Dream and Corpse Husband made anonymous content, with Dream eventually choosing to do a face reveal that was like the main thing that happened on the internet that day. And Corpse getting his face supposedly leaked to the point where some people say it ruined his whole career. In both Dream's and Corpse's cases, the fact that you could become a big fan of their content and then sit and wonder what they look like was a big part of their appeal. It added mystique. Anonymous acts will often give a reason like Daft Punk's or like MF Doom's, where they say something like, "I'm shy," or "I want the music to speak for itself." But the reason why these acts appeal to their fan bases is different. To me, it has more to do with the fact that the fans can then project whatever they want onto them like a blank canvas. When you read a book, anybody read books anymore? Y'all f with books? When you read a book, you get to picture what the characters look like. Even when they describe the character to you, you still get to create an image in your head. Anonymous content creators, and I'll put musicians in that box even though that word feels nasty sometimes, have a similar relationship with their listeners where the listeners can imagine them to be whatever they want. The writer Eli Ennis said something really wise when talking about another anonymous act, Smoke Dope 2016, and I liked what he said, so I'm going to read his quote and then put a link to the write-up in the description. Smoke Dope 2016 is, by virtue of being a masked rapper with an impersonal public presence, far more anonymous. In a weird way, I think that actually works to his advantage. You can glean whatever you wish. Anonymity is not absolute. There are plenty of artists who, despite being unknown to most people, you can find their identities if you look in the right places, or the wrong places, I guess, because it is kind of an invasion of privacy. Artists like Sleep Token and even SD Kid have had moments where people go and figure out who they really are on the internet. There are ways to tie these artists back to some human, even if it's only with a name or a grainy picture of a face. And while that might not be ideal for artists who are trying to protect their identity, it might be the lesser of two evils. What about artists with no trace at all? I don't know that much about country music. So for me to look over at the top of Billboard's digital country sales chart and not recognize an artist's name, it's not that crazy to me. But the issue with Breaking Rust, who was atop of that chart recently, is nobody knows who they are, because they are not a real person. Walk My Walk is an AI-generated song. And not only was it atop that Billboard chart, but at the time of me writing this script, it was the 15th most viral song in the world according to Spotify. The name in the credits, Abier Rivaldo Taylor, does not lead to any human from my Google searches, and none of the real publications that covered this story could find someone either. I mean, okay, it was like the New York Post. I don't know if calling them a real publication is a stretch there, but they couldn't find him either. That's my point. They did connect the name to another AI music project, Def Beats AI, that makes comedically horny country songs. Go explore that at your own risk. I will not be linking that in the description. This is a lot like the Velvet Sundown, who I covered a few months ago when they first had a bunch of success on Spotify and had publications covering them. I ended up in like Canadian news talking about them. They only have 200,000 monthly listeners right now, by the way. All that hype don't feel the same next year, boy. And that's still too many, but it's way less than they had in the summer. There are now countless examples of these AI-generated artists. Some of them, like the We Are Charlie Kirk song that was currently the #1 viral song on Spotify, are spreading more because of memes than because people actually like listening to them. But then there are artists like Zania Monet, an AI-generated R&B and gospel singer, who has over 1 million monthly listeners, and the creator of it, Talisha Jones, signed a record deal reportedly worth over $3 million. AI music is becoming more and more a part of our lives. And while there are so many conversations to be had about that, some of which I've had already, some of which I probably unfortunately will be having again on this channel, what I really want to think about today is what AI music does to that framework of the artist-listener relationship. It was never necessarily required for someone to have a vivid image of the artist they were listening to. Even back in the old days, if you were listening to a song on the radio, then you didn't know what the guy looked like. And if that artist wasn't prominently featured on the album's physical packaging, you could still buy the album and not know. This is how you had artists like the late Bobby Caldwell, who a lot of people thought was black just because of the way he sounded. But today, if you're a genuine fan of the artist, there's a pretty good chance you're going to see what the artist looks like. Whether that's by looking at their Spotify profile picture, or by following them on social media, or even buying a concert ticket and seeing them in person, or watching their YouTube commentary channel that they have to make because artists don't make enough money off music anymore. Like I said before, artists like MF Doom and Daft Punk had genuine qualms about the parasocial relationship between listeners and artists, so they created their own artist, basically, that wasn't them, and created a world for that persona and the listener to have a relationship. They said, you aren't necessarily going to get me, but you will get something. What's fascinating about AI artists to me, and scary kind of, is that instead of replacing the self with this created persona, they just give you nothing. or the bare minimum, a lazily generated piss sepia tinted picture of a cowboy, or some dudes who look like bad drawings of Led Zeppelin. Instead of being creative and building a world to stand in for you in that artist-listener relationship, they just give you nothing. And in most cases, you don't even know who's pushing the button to quote-unquote create this music. Zanya Monet's creator is public, but most of these cases, we do not know who's making the music. And it would be nice to say that this is just entirely the result of AI, just push the blame on technology getting better and better. But that's just not the truth to me. The music industry has created an environment for this to thrive, the way that leaving your unwashed dishes in the sink for 2 weeks will probably create some flies in your kitchen. Streaming services have made music consumption so passive. I always tell the story of meeting my girlfriend's friends and then being like, yeah, I'm a musician, and then like weeks later they'll text her and be like, oh, I've had his song saved for years. Like they can meet me in person, love my song, and not even know it's me. You can consume an artist's song, not know what they look like, not even know what the cover art of the song looks like. When music is relegated to background duty, it's so much easier for AI-generated slop to replace it without a good chunk of the population even noticing. And so all the details that go into the artistry of our favorites, like cover art, music videos, world building, narrative, album sequencing, the imperfections in the way that they sing and perform, become harder to actually get in front of the listenership. And to me, there's this grand irony under it all, that some of our greatest world builders in music were artists who chose to stay anonymous in order to create that space with painstaking detail. And the existence of these artists is directly threatened by this new type of anonymous artist, the type where the creator is probably so ashamed that they don't even want their name tied to it. Think about the listenership of the Charlie Kirk slop music, and not like my high school students who are saying it to be funny, but the people who are really genuinely listening to it, and they do exist. Because there are a bunch of other AI artists who make Charlie Kirk related music. A couple videos ago, I talked about this like fake K-pop Christian group called Amaya, where I could not find any evidence that they weren't AI. So I'm pretty sure they're AI, allegedly. Go to their comment section where their song hasn't become a giant meme, and it's full of genuine listeners. And these people don't know if the creator of this allegedly AI music is doing this to make fun of them or to agree with them. And while I think it's pathetic that they're listening to this dog water music, I do think that's kind of sad. But I don't just want to be a doomer about it. Turn the hopium filter on, because the artists who can really build a world are still being rewarded for it. Look at SD Kid, who has become the voice of a whole region of England, one that has not been particularly represented in hip-hop, even if they gave us the Beatles, especially not globally. But there are now people in New York reselling his concert tickets for $1,000. There were 27,000 people in line trying to get tickets to his show. And shows are really the way to tell how popular an artist is and how good they are at bringing people into their world. Because you can click on something, but to leave your house, spend money, and go into this venue, you really care about them. And I'm not trying to say that SD Kid is building a world as vast and deep as the ones that MF Doom and Daft Punk build. Just that the demand is still there for an artist who cares and puts in effort. For a bonus dose of hopium, here's another anonymous project that I've become a really big fan of. Self-proclaimed narcissist has been posting these snippets for a couple months now, where you can never see their face, usually just like the back of their head or maybe like a crop of their body, just posting a bunch of snippets of a project that they're working on. And the thing is, I'm like 99% sure I know this person and I know who they are, but I'm not gonna say anything. They've gained a little fan base just posting these clips, and they've only released one song, but the way that they release the songs and the videos I think is really cool. You get an email from them, and then you click it and you get an unlisted YouTube link. So I just got this second song from them, and it's really fire. And what's cool is I can go into the comments and see it's not just me. And it's not like a huge community, but it's a pretty decently sized one. And so it feels like the old internet in the sense where like I've stumbled onto something that a couple other people have found, but it really does feel like a little secret. And I think the anonymity is a big part of that. So if you like alternative R&B music, maybe is the genre I would put on it, kind of like Daniel Caesar-ish kind of stuff, I highly recommend checking out Self-Proclaimed Narcissist and just following along with where this story is gonna go. These AI artists are not gonna have concerts. God, maybe these AI artists will have concerts, but there is no way they're gonna look like that. Yet, at the end of the day, I just find it fascinating how it's a sort of like horseshoe theory, where in 2025, anonymity can be the sign of an artist who meticulously cares about the world that they build and about their craft, or it could be the sign of a grifter who does not give a fuck at all. Let me know what you want me to cover next. Peace.